Very cool. All right. So, did you quit watching the football game?
They made it like yeah, I have. Um, I've got no confidence that it's going to go well.
Yeah, I don't.
Uh,
I don't
like
either.
we're close at the half, down 17-10. Um, but
So,
I don't know. It just
yeah.
it feels like we've had a couple of good plays, and it feels like every play for them is a first down. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think over the course of a game, that probably doesn't play out in our
It'll
favor.
weigh it. Yeah. What about the football? Did you watch the football game today?
I did very sneaky, teacher mode with my
Yep.
uh
Yep.
game cast on my cell phone off to the side while
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching the kids do things, and I'm getting them started on some of their final projects for the semester and stuff. And so
Okay.
I've got a little bit of downtime to be watching it. And man, I thought we had it.
I
I
did too.
really
Like it
did.
was a lot of fun. Like that was the most fun I've had watching soccer in a really long time. Like it was an exciting game, and I'm starting to pick up soccer a little bit better. So it's like
There you go.
it was and I get it, man. Like when you're just like pent up for so long and then somebody scores a goal, you just like lose your brain, man. It's
And like legitimately, there's very few sport. I mean, in all sports it matters, like watching it at the highest level versus watching
right.
it at any kind of mediocre level, but especially soccer, because if you're watching not very good soccer, the ball gets turned over a lot, but it's always within about like 20 or 30 yards of
Mm-hmm.
midfield, it feels like, and there's never a
Mm-hmm.
threat. This game, on the other hand, like especially in extra time there, man, like it was just both teams taking a turn, making a really deep run at the goal,
Yeah.
where it's like one or two touches go a little bit differently, and all of a sudden this is on
Yep.
the net.
Yep. It was
Uh,
and it was interesting because I mean, like we had all possession the first half, and then they had all possession the second half. It was really then, like I actually listened to the commentators a little bit today, learning a little bit more about them, and so like I think I'm gonna go in on this World Cup. I think it's try to get in on it. It's the world's spectator sport, so
it
it's
is, and honestly, like it's a good time if you're going to, as an America fan, because
mm-hmm,
like our team probably isn't going to make a whole bunch of noise this year, but that's because we're super young.
right.
So like, you know, seeing some of those highlight moments, falling in love with one of the like players who you decide this is the guy you're going to be really excited for, knowing that
Yeah.
you've got like another 8 to 10 years or
Mm-hmm.
so of like watching them be
Mm-hmm.
top shelf. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's an
It's
exciting
fun.
time.
That's fun. All right, let's hit an intro and jump into it. Welcome to the podcast, Blue Collar Scholars. Not long ago, a group of brilliant minds met together at a pub to discuss their unfinished works. They recognized the value of coming together around delicious beverages and having meaningful conversations. That group was known as the Inklings. The Inkle podcast here, we're working to be the second iteration of that group. So, pour yourself a craft beverage, pull up a chair, and join the conversation. All right, man, you had anything good to drink lately?
Um, Nothing too adventurous.
Yeah,
Uh,
me either.
like, yeah, it's kind of one of those things, man. I honestly, what it comes down to is that I need to like I haven't gone out and gone shopping for like anything in a while, and
Mm-hmm.
so like I I just need to and
Yeah.
get something. But yeah, I mean, I've still been sipping on some like scotches and whiskeys and bourbons and things like that that I'm really enjoying.
Yeah.
Uh, a buddy of mine put me on to there's this bourbon called Early Times that is like really a really nice price point for it, and it's good. Like we tried it next to some of the really good stuff. It's like the Early Times is like $22 for a good size bottle, and then we
Okay.
tried that and tried some of one of the elite bottles. It's like $70 or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, no, no, no. It's very different. And like now I can tell the
Right.
difference. But in terms of just something to sit there and sip, it was smooth, it was sweet. It was
Right.
really nice actually.
Right.
Probably gonna become one of my go-tos for
Your
my
shelf
for just sitting and
stables.
sipping
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. The utility one.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how like things come in seasons, like we will be all in on one thing, and then it'll be like, okay, I'm done for a little while. And then you go all in on something else, and like, okay, I'm done for a little while. And there's always this weird little transition point where you're not really into anything, and it could just be operationally. Because yeah, I'm the same way. Like I haven't had any reason to go do anything, and right now, man, inflation is legit.
Oh yeah.
Like it is for real. Because like our grocery bill is almost double, and because it's like they say inflation is 9%, right? But because my day job is in pricing, like you can look at everything, and like if you were to go down to your necessities like milk, bread, and eggs, inflation is 25%.
Right.
So it's not 9% across flat across the board, like it's the
Exactly.
things that matter. And so like we really haven't been doing like where we would have done, like tried some wines or done anything. We're like, oh, Chalice Lane from Bevmo, which is, $9.99 for 2 bottles. That's what we're going to get. And they're good. Yeah. They're utility wines, but like we're not doing anything new, like we're doing something just to get by.
Yeah. And it gets a little too expensive to like risk the miss on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, so yeah, we've noticed that we've really been pulling back on stuff. And so the new things haven't really come in, so hopefully we'll have something soon. I mean, I know I'll have a trip to we do House Murphy's at Christmas time. So like we'll go to have German food and then we'll go over across the park. So I know I'll have something new then, but like other than that, it's probably going to be Inkledew coffee, some German beers, and Chalice Lane wine. Like that's going to be until I run out of German beers, and then it'll just be coffee and Chalice Lane wine. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, adapt and overcome.
That's it. It's about, playing the long game here. I just got to survive this. I'll come 100%. Out the other side. Oh, man. All righty. Well, let's get into it. I wanted to kind of transition our conversation a little bit because we've been on mission and calling. And then we were like leadership. And then, I don't know, we both kind of talked about our calling. And then we've kind of, I don't know. What I wanted to get into was more like once you started it or like stepping into it or like you're going into it, you're answering the call, like you're going in there. And I am in full transparency using our podcast as another therapy session for me, right? This is me learning because this is the crap that comes out. I'm like, I need to write this down and have AJ, like, and why not put it out on the public? It's only like my private thoughts. It's okay. But it's been interesting working
outsourcing solutions. Here we go.
Exactly. But working with this mentor, I mean, kind of pointing out that like when you start working towards something that's like visionary, or you start working towards something that's bigger than just going to a job to get a paycheck, like that is something that is, it's like safe, right? Yeah. It's something that you can control. Like, what you're going to put in, what you're going to get out. There's no variables. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. For most of us, we pick the safe job and we do that over and over again. But if you're going to step into your calling, you don't have that same security, right? And you have to be kind of okay with that. And that's one of the things my mentor has really been hammering on me a little bit is he's like, hey man, like this isn't survival. Okay. This is different than that. And I'm like, man, well, I'm like programmed for survival.
Sure.
Well,
and I think, one of the things that I think is kind of cool is like when you think about the way kind of an ordinary job situation works, and it's going to be slightly oversimplified because I know not every job is like technically a contract job,
right?
But they still are essentially, whether it's on paper or not, there's like an agreement that's made,
right?
This is what I get per hour. This is the number of hours I work,
and this is what's expected of you.
Exactly. And here's the tasks.
Yep.
But it's like, it's a negotiated thing. And it is I will give you some of what I have in exchange for some of what you have.
Mm-hmm.
But like the entire concept of a calling is incredibly contrary to that. Like the whole idea of it being a calling means that it's going to take all of what we have and there's not really room for negotiation. It's like
Right.
it's closer to an all-in hand of poker, where it's like God's made the bet.
Right.
He's
Right.
pushed all in and he's got more than us. So it's like, okay, I'm either going to call and go all in, or I'm going to fold. That is my decision making process at this point.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of the difference between a contract agreement for a job versus a covenant agreement for a call.
Mm-hmm.
Like the contract is I mean, it's a binding thing. It has weight, it has meaning, but like ultimately, I know there are ways out of it. They
Right.
might cost me, but there are ways out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, as soon as we're talking covenant, there's the whole thing. Even when we are faithful, God cannot help but be faithful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh no. The covenant is still happening. Like it's
Right.
just it's just a question of like, are we going to cooperate with it, or are we going to, like, kicking and screaming,
Right.
be going
Right.
into it?
I like what you said there about the like, I don't know what you said exactly because my mind jumped to a different word, and so that's only the word I have in my brain now. But I was thinking like the building back doors, like for the contract work, right? Like there's this back door. There's always a back door, whereas covenant, there's no back door. And I feel like that back door or the contract itself, that mentality has like some built-in limitations, right? Like you said it perfectly. Like, I'm going to give you part of what I have for part of what you have, and I'm going to determine the parts that I have and will give to you, because and that's what, I'm protected, I'm safe, I don't have to, all of these different things. And so I feel like if that's our training, like there's going to be these limitations in our mind that when we go into something like covenant or calling that don't have those same limitations, like they don't translate perfectly. Like some of the skills will translate. Like I could fully believe, like, if I did get a job doing some sort of thing with church or ministry or something, like I could translate Excel, right? Like Excel skills would still work over there.
Sure.
But, the idea of 9 to 5, that might not,
probably not. Yeah.
And so, like, if you went into your ministry job and you're like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I got to leave. And everybody's like, no, hang on. We got these things going on. Like, it could be really frustrating. And like, that's a really weak example. Because for me, let's go a little bit harder for me, I guess. One of the things I found is that, like, I have the safety piece that I said earlier was my limiting belief, like the need for security. Right. And that comes from job security. That's the thing. And one of those things that I found out was that I leaned into job security at work because of actually like a fear that I had in the ministry side. Right. So like I was always afraid to go all in on ministry or on God. Let's say take ministry all in on God, because, it took me a long time to admit this to Kevin, my mentor, but I finally said it out loud, and it's been like blowing my brain up since then. But like, I'm afraid that if I go all in and I fail, then what does that mean? Does that mean God's not real? Does that mean God doesn't care about me? Does that mean like if you go all in and then nothing works out, like, then you're like, well, why? And then that question's hard to answer.
It is.
And so like I had to, and so that fear kind of, I chose security, right? Because like I love God, right? I love Jesus. And I almost love the image I have of Jesus, right? And I, that image I have of Jesus may not actually be Jesus, right? And so like I'm almost
certainly isn't.
Right. I'm almost like being defensive of it and be like, or I'm protecting the image in my mind, because like if I do fail, then the image that I have of Christ in my mind will be threatened. And so I chose this safety, this job security, where there was no risk and I could live a Christian life without real challenges to my faith to determine, hey, like you might be Peter and betray Christ in front of everybody, but Peter was trying, like he was all in. He did betray him, but he came back, like I love the story that we came up with a long time ago. That was great. We didn't come up with it. You know what I'm saying?
It happened. I'm rambling. That different thing.
Yes. But like, that's the thing. Like, I'm afraid that to be like that idea that I would betray and was so scary, like I kind of stayed secure.
Yeah.
And so like that's been a limiting belief, I think, that's been holding me back for a long time that I never really realized until recently.
Yeah. And I think it ties in too, like, because there's kind of the two sides of it. There's the idea that if I go all in and fail, what does that say about God? Like you said, I mean, it would raise a lot of questions about like my belief in God. If I'm 100% convinced that I went all in and it totally blew up in my face. But for me, the insecurity, like my limiting belief is that I feel like a lot of times I have a tendency to take the analogy a little too seriously between the idea of God and like my boss. Like this idea that, well, if I go all in and fail, like I'm pretty confident that if that were to happen, that I would put that on me.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, so I misunderstood what God was going for, but is he going to fire me?
Right. He's like, not yet done. You're fired.
Yeah, exactly. Just cut me off. Like, look, I appreciate the effort. You were doing some good work.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this is where you were supposed to get to, and you only got to here. So peace.
Right.
Good luck. If you need a recommendation for a future company, let me know. And like, again, it's that whole idea of there's security in the idea that if I'm only giving a part, and this is something that I've seen with students all the time.
Yeah.
These kids
I know where you're going and I love it.
They won't do the thing, because if they don't do the thing, then when they're failing the class, well, if I had tried, I would have done this, this, and this.
Right.
And you're able to kind of, like you were saying before, give yourself that back door. Like, no.
Yeah.
I didn't fail. I didn't try.
Right.
And
if you only give part,
you'll see some impressive things.
Yeah. If you only give part, you're only accountable to part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like I do, as much as it drives me nuts when the kids do that, I do the same thing on a significantly grander scale, because, my opinion that gets filled out as a grade on a report card is significantly less important than what we're talking about here. But like, if it's the weirdest thing that, and it's one of those ideas that can only exist subconsciously, because I'm having a really hard time saying it out loud right now, because even before it gets like from my brain down to my lips, I've already noticed how stupid what I'm about to say is.
Yeah.
And yet here it is. The reality is, on some level, I feel like if I come to my judgment, I feel like in some way it's going to be beneficial for me to be able to say, well, God, you know what I could have done. I just never got there. Like, on what level?
Right.
On what level is that conversation better than, Lord, I have no idea what went wrong. I put it all out there, and I don't know where I missed. Heck, I don't know. Maybe I didn't miss. Maybe I thought we were measuring my success in this thing that I saw, but you were really looking over here and saw this thing happen. I don't know, but I did something. As opposed to the way I approach things definitely conveys the idea that I'm actually looking to be able to go to God and say, oh man, God, if the world you had created had just given me more opportunities to make use of these gifts you gave me, oh man, the good we would have done.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because like when you're saying, like when you have the thought, it makes total sense in your brain, but then by the time it makes it to your mouth, you realize that so much of it is about us and not about God.
100.
It's 100%. It's about our own you know, God is sovereign. Like he doesn't need us to protect. Like for me, this is me speaking from my position again. He doesn't need me to protect him.
Mm-hmm.
Like if my idea of Christ is shattered, like the dude's fine. Like he's not losing a step, like nothing's gonna shake him.
He's probably in a better spot, like honestly, because he doesn't have to like he no longer has to worry about being the one to like try and break it so we can see him how he really is.
Right.
Like, oh, sweet, we're a step ahead now. Beautiful.
And so it's really interesting on how, like, when you try to step into these things, like we project our own insecurities, our own fears, our own baggage as though it's something good for God. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then so what we end up doing is we create these systems of limiting beliefs because we think it's for God's good. But really, it's probably just fear. Because that covenant thing that you're talking about, scary, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Not knowing what's on the other side. Like I did the clip recently. It's not posting for like a month or two or something, but like the line where it's like, you have to be okay with crossing the river, and if God kills you, then God kills you. Like that line from a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was like listening to it again. I was like, dang it, that's it. Like that's true. Like you have to kind of. That's scary as crap.
Oh yeah.
And so you're gonna look for any reason to project whatever you can to not have to step into that because it's freaking scary.
Look, man, I know we've already mentioned Peter and he's my guy. I always come back to him because like me, Peter was not slow to open his mouth and put things out there. Like me, a lot of times he should have been. But like, he's the only one who got out of the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we remember Peter for starting to sink. We don't talk about the other 11 who were still just chilling on the boat where it was totally safe.
So
and
true.
Like, the reality of the situation is like, yeah, I relate to Peter in a lot of ways. That's not one of them. That it's where I need to get.
Mm-hmm.
But like right now, I'm not the dude stepping out of the boat.
Yeah.
I'm the one sitting there like, I'm not going to take the name of one of the apostles and try and project them onto this, but like, I'm the dude sitting on the boat going, Peter, come on, man. No. Look, if he wants you out there, he'll tell you.
Right.
Oh, he said yes when you asked him. Okay, I'm sure it's just to prove a point. Like, this is not going to go well for you. You should have just been patient. Let him tell you what.
Right.
And then,
oh, cool. You're hitting some things for me there.
Justifying why I'm sitting here, as opposed to like, Peter is proactive. Peter is proactive in it, man. He says he sees Jesus out there on the water doing something that he cannot explain, cannot reconcile with his experience. But his response isn't to doubt that Christ can do it. His response is to say, oh, well, then if you tell me to, I can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that part, if you tell me to do it, I can do it too. It's not actually a pride thing. Like, Peter doesn't just hop out of the boat and go like running over to him.
Yeah.
Lord, command that I should come to you. And then Jesus invites him and he gives it a shot. And yeah, it doesn't go well, but it went.
It did go.
He got one step further out onto the water than anyone else.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, that's so true too, because like if you've ever spent any time in a youth group or young adult group or anything, or listened to a Jeremy Camp song, it's always just like, whatever.
I'm sorry. I need a quick timeout. The tone of voice change that happened when you went from youth group to young adult group to a Jeremy Camp song.
I shouldn't talk trash. There's a lot of people that get value from him.
No, but I'm still with you.
But like it's just like anybody that's like and it's one of those things that's not wrong, but it's also not helpful. To where it's like, oh, pray, God will tell you what to do. Oh, just wait until God tells you what to do. It'd be like, well, I've been waiting a really long time. Like I don't like Peter did stuff. He crashed and burned a lot. And so like when you're thinking about it, like you don't ever think that he did amazing things that none of the other apostles ever did. And that was because he was more willing to fail almost. Like he got closer, he crashed and burned. Yeah, but he got way closer than anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, and I never thought about that. We tend to sit back and wait for that perfect moment or that perfect feeling or that urge to, and it's like, you know what? It's almost just like, God, I'm sometimes there's a season of waiting, again, there's always the ifs, ands, and buts and all of these things. But, like when he says go, like just freaking go. And you're probably going to fail because you're not him. Right. Like we're going to be like Peter. We're going to go. We might get 1 or 2 steps and then we're going to crash. And then we're going to get up and then we're going to go a little bit farther to the point that where Peter was healing people at the gates after Christ left. Like, I don't remember anybody else telling them to pick up their mat and walk, like Peter did though. Right. Yeah. Didn't he? That dude, because he was so willing to just like go, even if he failed, he didn't let the failure and I'm kind of bringing it into more modern terms here, but like, he's not letting those failures take anything away from Christ or even take anything away from himself.
Yeah.
He's learning, he's growing, he still betrays Christ, he's still redeemed by Christ. And then like, he has this journey of up and down, but it's always like this upwards trajectory with these crashes and burns, but always going further up and further in.
Yeah. That next low point is never as low as his previous high point.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think, kind of going back to that idea of, like, wait for God to tell you, like there's something to that. Yeah. But like, we also, we hear people talk about the idea of, and the phrasing makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but that's just because I'm an uncomfortable person. But like, that idea of, God is a gentle lover.
Mm-hmm.
He'll never force himself on us. And like that's all true. It's a really like accurate image of the fact that like God it respects the free will he gave us.
Right.
But then why are we so slow to recognize the other implication of that? That if I'm just waiting for God to tell me what to do, like that's not his normal mode of operation.
Yeah.
Like God is wanting us to invite him in.
Right.
There's a huge difference between me saying, God, I really feel like this is something I'm called to. Let me know. Like that's a very different thing than saying, God, just tell me what you want me to do.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that question either. Like there's a time and a place for that.
Sure.
And like, he'll answer that prayer, but on his time, not ours.
Right.
And so like, that's where that season of waiting comes in, but it still shouldn't be a passive waiting.
Exactly. That's what I was just thinking. I was like, you say something to the effect of, like open the doors I'm supposed to go through, close the ones I'm not. And then you walk.
Yeah.
And then you face plant the one that you got closed. And you're like, oh, you're like a robot vacuum where you're just like, dunk, oh, dunk, oh, hey, this is an open door. And then you go through it, like sometimes it takes that, or somebody like me has to do it that way. But
oh yeah,
it's still, like you said, it's not passive. And I think that's the biggest key is that, there's not going to be, in my experience, there's not absolute clarity. Like there are people who have that call that is crystal clear. And I'm always jealous of them. I really am. I honestly, like the kid who said he's going to be a doctor at 8 years old and then just does nothing but becomes a doctor. You're like, that's insane. That's crazy. But, there's the vast majority of people, us lay folk here, like we don't get that level of clarity as some of the people that we see. And some of the people we see may not have it either, but they're just moving. And so that's the thing. And I guess if we push it into life lessons here at the end, I think that's kind of where I'm going to fall is that, if we're stepping into the call, like don't Don't step into it like a cold pool, like do like jump, like run, like step into it at a run and just go. Like don't let failure or the fear of failure stop you. Like your failures or your perceived failures don't threaten God. Like God is sovereign. He is going to be there forever. And he's going to use and you can use all of the things that you need. Like God can draw a straight line with a crooked stick and all of the things that we say, but the reality is just that it's about motion. It's about movement and momentum and grow. But you can't sit and wait on it, and that, again, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have, like, I still feel, like I said in my thing, like I'm still waiting on my go, but I haven't stopped doing anything.
Right.
Like we're doing podcasts and coffees and we're doing all kinds of things because like I'm still going, but I also feel like it hasn't been quite go time quite yet, type of a thing. And maybe I'll never feel that way. I don't know, but don't just sit around and wait doing nothing. Wait on God, but continue to patrol or whatever you want to say, whatever analogy you want to use, like keep moving.
Absolutely. Like it's kind of that idea of failing forward.
Yes. Thank you. That's better.
In terms
well
of
better said.
Just that idea of like, oh yeah, I am going to like trip and I'm going to fall. But if I fall forward, then, when I get up, I'm still closer.
Still progress. Yep.
And I think for me, like one of the things that just sort of like came into my mind as we were talking there was this idea of like the difference between peace and stillness. Like, because like when we're discerning and when we're looking for that call, we'll be able to recognize it in part because there will be peace, even if it's a difficult thing. That like sense of God's presence with us in it, even if it's difficult, there's still a peace. But what there probably won't be is like an actual stillness, because God's not calling us to be where we're at.
Right.
Anything God is calling us to is going to require us moving because we're not to him yet.
Right.
So we're going to have to keep moving in that way.
Oh.
And so like, if we like, and I don't want to completely shut down the idea of sometimes needing to push pause and needing to take a moment, and a moment, like an indefinite amount of time. I'm not like setting a time limit on it.
Right.
There are those seasons where God is like, look, you're not going to be able to take that next step yet. I need you to charge up for a little bit. There's some stuff coming here and you need it. And that's fine.
Let's do some deep work before we go. Yeah,
exactly. But it's still deep work.
Yeah.
It's still a time of preparation. There's still an activity there. It's still not actual sedentary stillness.
Right.
And so like,
oh man,
if you wonder why God's not directing you, it's because he can't tell you where to go until you're moving.
Yeah.
Like it's the whole GPS thing. If I just stay in one spot, it has nothing to tell me.
Yeah.
It's not until I make a turn, whether it's the right one or the wrong one, where it's got some information for me about either keep going or we need to readjust the route.
Right. Right. Well, I really, really like that image of like, we're always in motion because we're not to him yet. Like as much as the Holy Spirit is with us, like God the Father's in the distance, like, and we're running the race. And so like you're moving towards him always. And if you're still like if you're not moving towards him, then that's a bad thing.
Yeah. That's a problem.
Yeah. That's an issue. And so that I love that idea. And so again, just stay in motion, man. Keep moving forward. That's a Disney movie.
Just keep swimming.
There you go. Oh man. All right. That's fantastic. Well, everybody, if you would like to support these meaningful conversations, they're meaningful for me for sure. I get a ton out of this. Like I said, it's my own therapy session. So I hope you get something out of it. If you do, we would love your support. And by support, we mean buying a bag of coffee on the website there.
So we can give you some of that juice to keep you moving forward.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't come. How did I not get that one? Like I should have had a caffeine and motion. Like, how did I miss a pun like that? Oh, that's
why we're a team.
I am ashamed, and I appreciate you catching that one. I can't believe I missed it. Yes. Yes. Let's get that movement juice. Oh, that's fantastic. All right. You got anything else on your brain there, man?
Nah, man, just a desperate need to have my pillow under my brain.
I hear that. I hear that. All right. With that, we will say
Adieu.